All right, three, two, one. Hey everybody, Harry Welchel here. Today I am back with Chaz Morales of influenceyourmarket.com. Chaz, what are we catching up on today?
Just more progress revenue-wise in month 2 and month 3 of working with him. The first month I was sitting around 10 to 12K, kind of like with just a combination of done for you, mostly clients, and then obviously maybe one main one-off sale, but it was only around 2K. So I was able to get to 40K, and so I kept some of the done for you guys, got rid of the difficult ones, and then I was able to focusing on mainly selling a one-off offer and increasing my pricing as well. And
so you went from 10K to 40K in your first month with me, and then in month 2, what did you do revenue wise?
I went to I just bumped it up by about anywhere between, I think it was about 10 more K, and then this month I'm right underneath 60K, but I'm probably not going to reach it. I think I'm around, depending on whether someone closes today or doesn't, because today is pretty much the last day of the month, or tomorrow is. It'll be anywhere between 50 to 58K for this month, so it's pretty good, yeah.
So you basically went from a run rate of like 120,000 a year to like, what is that? Like 600,000 a year in 3 months. And how does that feel?
I didn't know it was possible. After I did the 10 to 40K, I stopped having. I had goals and I intended for things to happen, but I started to really stop putting parameters around what I think might be possible, because that it can also harm you. It can limit how far you can go as well.
Yep. Yeah, so, like you get too kind of enamored on that, the goals or the specifics, and you focus on that more than just like running the business and doing the activities. Well, for those who don't know you, man, Chaz, why don't you just briefly, can you just introduce yourself and share like a little bit about you and your business?
Yeah, so I just help people mainly leverage, mainly Instagram shout outs. They're, being interviewed in big Facebook groups, and I help them turn leads who sort of watch those interviews or come from those traffic sources, turn into sales calls. It works really well for, I'd say, beginner to intermediate people, so borderline low level, high ticket. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the most ideal for things above 5K, but most people who are just trying to get their start, I found they're just trying to. Most of them are just probably making 2 to 3K sales sometimes 2 to 3 months. So it's more like a hobby and it's not really consistent. And then, so I have them do it like that. And then basically the goal is to get them 1 client a month doing that. It's pretty average. And then just to free up their time, because I endorse direct outreach, but I know for a lot of them, it can be a lot of people I work with tend to be anywhere between 30 to like 70 plus years old. And so they just don't have time. They have hobbies, they have a life, or they have a family. And so because of that, their time is limited. And most of the people I work with, believe it or not, are able to dedicate anywhere between, I'd say, 3 to 4 hours a week, and they can get, at least 3 sales calls a week. But they're quite high quality. So usually within about anywhere between 3 to 5 weeks, they can close someone, and then they just get more in a rhythm as time goes on. But it's all organic for the most part. So
that's awesome, man. Cool. Dude, yeah. That's awesome. So we had an earlier interview talking about that first month. For those who haven't listened to that, if they want to kind of get a play-by-play of that first month and what you did to accomplish that, definitely go back and take a listen to that. For those who are just checking in now, like, can you just share maybe like, we don't have to do every single thing, but like 2 or 3 things that have been really helpful in the last month or two takeaways or insights or things that have you've improved recently?
So the first thing I've improved is not really having, even when I was like my first month, when I made that big jump from 10K to 40K, I still had a lot of anxiety about the sales that I still didn't make. But now that I've been working with this program for a little over 3 months now, I really have no anxiety, and I really have zero attachment to whether or not someone, who I thought would have been a good lead, or they probably were a good lead, but they don't close. I'm quite careless, because there's so much you can do, using what Harry teaches and stuff to either follow up with them later, or there's just there's always another prospect. That's the first thing. So that I have no anxiety when it comes to potentially creating leads in the future, because that's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So related to
that's like
the main stemming. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I think there's just some internet stuff. Go ahead.
The main, it is a legitimate concern, because there's always, and this is why it's always good, especially if you're a marketer, to always invest in something, at least just one component, just keep yourself sharp, because beyond the practice of investing in yourself and never really stopping that, you should also, there's always decay rates related to every organic paid strategy to a certain degree. There's lifespans of paid ads and stuff, and you can milk things for all they're worth to a certain extent, but then eventually they'll always end up dying, and you have to create something new. So basically, that's one of the biggest, I think, some of the organic strategies that I learned with Harry and stuff. There's so many, because it's a nice transition. Basically, we're pretty much, I'd say, 95 to 100% of people welcome your advances to talk to them and stuff. And because of the way of how it's so flexible, and there's so many variations and iterations that it can be made into, I think its lifespan is quite high. And so that's also part of the reason why my anxiety is a lot less than what it used to be. Because, if you have something that will probably last good for the next 4 to 5 years, it's a quite comforting feeling. But there's a lot of strategies that worked back 2 years ago that don't work today, so.
Yeah, this is such an interesting idea, because I think a lot of people, they're looking for some blue ocean or something that's uncharted territory.
Yeah.
And because of that, they think they'll be first and they get access. But what's cool about what I teach and what you've been working on is you're just learning how to have a intentional, human, personal, relationship building conversation. And that's just never going to go away. It's totally evergreen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so once you learn that, then you put on this abundance mindset, and you know that there's so many leads out there. You just have to go get more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big thing. Another thing too, though, if anyone is just, I guess just because before I signed up working with you and stuff, I still have always been, very cash conscientious person, and it could be a good thing or a bad thing. It can definitely slow you down, but it's definitely not the worst thing either. But basically, Harry just has so many results, whether it's testimonials, client interviews, or whatever. It gets to a point where it's redundant. There's just too many. It's so redundant to pretty much reason or ask yourself, is it legit or is it not? Because it would take so much energy. It would take more energy to not be legit and keep it up than it would be to be legit. Another thing too is because of the way his program is designed and stuff, and the way he literally shows you what's working and stuff and all that good stuff. It gets to a point where, for people who like to know, I guess, they can reason from something fundamental and kind of reason from there. For those types of people out there, a reassuring thought experiment that might help them would be something that runs along the lines of, he's the type of guy who it's kind of nice to model after what he does in a way, to make it your own. But he does that in a lot of the stuff, especially whether it's the Q&A sessions or just some of the training he does. It's not just a slideshow presentation; it's much more than that, and it's stuff that's actually working, and it's not just try this out. It sounds cool. So it's
with the stuff on the proof and the interviews and stuff. Is that something that you've translated into your own business, where you just you're working to get, or you feel like you have like overwhelming proof that you deliver on your claims?
For myself.
Yeah, for yourself.
Again, most of the people I help are just people who are trying to just perhaps elevate making 0 sales to making 1 sale every 4 to 6 weeks, and then for just 2 or 3K, and then for people who are already maybe making 1 sale every 4 to 6 weeks, making 2 to 3 a month. So it's still more of like a beginner's type of client that I'm kind of aiming for, as compared to people who you work with. I think your tactics are a little stronger for higher ticket.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that for your folks, they build more trust and rapport with you through the way that you massage them in organic lead generation, and less so from like you having tons of interviews that they consume over a long period of time and build trust with you through that.
Yeah, but it's getting to a point right now where I am enrolling a good amount of people every month now, and my success rates probably within most of the people I work with are actually getting, I'd say about 80% of them are getting a client in the first 3 to 5 weeks, which is like, some of them are surprising me. That it's actually getting to a point where I'm getting so busy I can really only add basically 35 to 40 friends a day, and then just they're just seeing the interviews, interacting, and reaching out to me. So it's getting to a point where I'm.
So you are getting more of that inbound.
Yeah, but it just takes time to develop. But once you do, it's kind of nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what other sort of insights or takeaways? Any other ones?
Yeah, I mean, you should never, I think because of the style of marketing, which I guess if you could describe it, the best way I would describe Harry's program would be, social proof, organic based marketing, which is kind of nice. That's at least a very strong element of it. He has other elements that are very strong. I would say that there are probably, if you're new to hearing about Harry, or you've been following for a while, you're on the fence of enrolling with him and stuff. One thing I can definitely say is that you guys are probably, whether you're a digital marketer, whether you're done for your person, or you're a coach, or you're trying to sell a course, there's probably a lot of people you pitched in your inbox who just ignored you, told you to go away, all that good stuff, and that's fine. Like, it's classic. It happens to all of us. But what happens over time is that a lot of the time they don't end up blocking you. They still end up on your friends list, and they end up seeing like the wins that you share and the interviews you have with clients and all that, and they change their mind. A no is not a no forever, and that's very important to recognize, because there's a lot of people who told me to go away even a year and a half ago, who are like asking me if they can't afford the full thing that I offer, but they're asking me to work with them with installment plans, and I am on the verge of having a wait list, just because I would much rather, I'm just sort of vetting who I want to work with, because I can't work with everyone. I really can't take on more than 5 high ticket paying clients per month for the one-on-one. I am building out a little bit more now, since I have more clarity on what I can predict are done for you, just as like a downsell. But yeah, I mean, people change their mind when they see the social proof and they see all that good stuff. I mean, it's honestly inevitable, and FOMO really does kick in, and it's as much as FOMO can really be something that is a negative concept that most people should ignore, which they probably should. Like a lot of people out there on the internet, they really are hyping up their lives and all that good stuff. It can be a good thing too, where you truly are. You may not be missing out, but you could definitely elevate your life, and it truly is possible for you. And so having a certain element of that, and having your prospects see that and see you in that light as the person to get you to that slightly elevated version of reality that they might desire, it can be useful, and it's not entirely bad. Just like comparison isn't entirely bad either. It isn't good for you to progress, but it can serve really well as like developing a baseline. Yeah. But the social proof, I think, is probably the biggest thing.
You mentioned
yeah. Go ahead.
You mentioned something before we got on the call about were you saying that like more people were paying up front or paying in full? Is that something you mentioned?
Um,
You getting better at sales?
oh yeah. So I was just noticing. Yeah, just some of the stuff I've noticed is just that one thing I've actually found that's helpful, and I think I learned it from Harry, but it was more of a subconscious thing. I realized is that if you want to judge someone on whether or not they're going to buy, like for example, you may even be running ads and you might want to cancel 10% of them that you think are time wasters. I think the best way to sort of judge whether or not you should cancel an application or you should cancel an organic call that you produced and take, because sometimes, I mean, for most people, they want to take all of them, but sometimes you can get backed up and, canceling might be more ideal, just giving them a freebie or something instead. What I've noticed is that instead of measuring people based on their income level and the amount of problems they have, the biggest metric, which I think is measurable, that actually has been accurate in terms of assessing whether or not someone will buy is their enthusiasm. So if someone's enthusiastic about the call, they're probably going to buy. There's much more likelihood. It doesn't matter if they're poor, they're rich, they're medium. It doesn't really matter. I've actually noticed that people are like way beyond it, like they can totally afford it. A lot of them actually end up seeing it as an expense. And then there's some people who could barely afford it or can't really afford it at all. So I just give them something helpful and tell them to come back in 3 or 4 months. But yeah, if you judge people based on their enthusiasm, that's actually a pretty good metric. And I don't know, it's very talked about. I'm sure it is by some people, but you should definitely look at people based on their enthusiasm. And I've actually found that actually is a winning metric. And you don't really have to ask them, or you can just see it in the nature of their language and how they're interacting and all that. It's a pretty dead giveaway. It's common sense in many respects. But yeah, if they're enthusiastic and it's legitimate, then I think it's worth a go. Because sales calls, true sales calls that if you're even when you're closing well at like 30 or 40%, it takes a lot of energy. So you don't want to. And most of the sales calls I've actually taken have been up to anywhere between 70 to 100 minutes. It's just I'm a little bit more long-winded, and I've actually found that I close people better instead of trying to rush the interaction. So if you're going to dedicate that amount of energy to close someone for something anywhere between 3 to 5K, it's worth being very protective of your energy. That's all, because it's just responsible to do, I think. But the enthusiasm is a good measurable thing, and ever since I focus more on that, I have made a little bit of more progress as well. But yeah, that's what I've.
It's a great insight. Yep. A lot of people who are starting out, they're really focused on traditional sales qualification with other leads, especially and they don't have a track record or any sort of proof that they can deliver on their claims. So they come out of the gate hot being like, how much money do you have? And it's like, it just turns off everybody and they don't get any business.
It turns off everyone. Yeah. It turns off everyone. Yeah.
I love it, man. That's awesome. So Chaz, would you recommend others work with me?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think an ideal client who would work with you would be someone who definitely has a legitimate expertise or a passion, but they feel as if that element or subject that they're teaching is truly a part of their identity. If they're able to achieve that and they have that kind of purpose, then I think it's a good fit. But I think I just think it's going to be too much work for anyone who just doesn't really have any focus. So I think there's really no harm in getting a job or getting an education, because it can pay dividends in terms of creating the person who you need to become in order to sustainably run a business. But ultimately, what I found that thing is just, you need to find your why and what it in terms of why you're doing it, and you need to definitely become passionate about whatever it is, the subject you're teaching or you're helping people with. But that's a lot harder done. It's a lot harder to do than people think sometimes. So I definitely think you need some life experience a little bit. You don't have to be old or anything. You just have to have some life experience and just.
You're in college, right?
Yeah. I just senior year. But you need to be crystal clear and have a lot of conviction. If you're a nerdy person, an introvert, I actually think it can be an advantage. You just got to get over the shy element. But I really think it's less about being shy and more about social anxiety, which I've overcome quite a bit by forcing myself to do it. Because I started 2.5 years ago, so that's quite a long time. But you just need conviction and you need a strong why. But if you have those components, I think you should be good.
I like it, man. Yeah, I think. Let me see if I can fix this light. Hold on one sec. Let's see if this works. That make a difference? No, hold on. Yeah, I like it, man. It's it's the way I would say what you're saying is like, if you think that there's some hidden, like, make money online, get rich quick thing where you can hack something together and not care about getting your clients results, like, please do not come talk to me. Like, this is not a fit for you. But if you're open to actually, like you said, finding your passion, becoming passionate about what you're doing and the people you're helping, and you have some marketable skills, you probably just need help articulating what you're doing and with your sales process and your lead gen, and then you're going to do fine. And that's it,
Yeah.
Nice.
I also think too, it's even to progress, even no matter who you're working with, it is the reason why I say you need a why is because the amount of rejection you face and stuff, and just the amount of hours you have to sacrifice, it is very painful. It just is. And so you have to have a why. I guess I use a lot of thought experiments, and they probably are the purest form of reasoning to a certain degree. They're useful in sales calls too, but should the need arise. But a very simple thought experiment, I think, that I definitely like to use, is, you're kind of creating like your own little moat or wall, I guess, around people who might try to take you out or copy what you're trying to do or something. But based on the amount of time, energy, and like rejection you have to go through and face, because the likelihood of them having to go through all that same turmoil is, they're probably have to go through the exact same experience just to get to where you get to. So it's entirely worth to go through all that mud, if you will, because once you kind of get to that point where you're at 8 to 10K a month, it starts to get a little bit easier in terms of you're at a point where you pretty much know you're at the very least, even at the worst, you're probably going to make at least one sale per month.
Yeah.
But to really establish and get yourself there, it's extremely painful and hard because it takes a lot of energy and learning curves and mainly nuance and stuff. And you just have to be willing
Practice.
to grin and bear it and just get good. And that, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say I've gotten good. I've just recently gotten good, and I've probably been on over at least 1,500 sales calls, So
yeah. One thing that comes to mind for me, and like, you may disagree, but like, I actually don't think you need a big why, a strong why, to get to 10K a month.
No, I never said 10K a month.
I think for you, like where you were
Yeah,
at, where I'm at, once you start hitting 10K, if you don't have some inner fuel that's motivating you, like you're just gonna get happy at like 10 or 20K and you'll just stay there, which is fine. Like you can stay there, but like you'll also get bored or you'll get tired or get frustrated because it's just you got more people coming in and asking for help and complaining or needing support or whatever. There's always little knick-knacky things that are coming in at you. So I found, and it sounds like the same with you, it's like once I started hitting like 10 or 20K, the more and more like my why started to form, and it kind of got shaped, and I'm still
yeah,
forming it now, but like you have to kind of dig deeper and figure out what motivates you to keep going at that point.
yeah.
So anyway, um,
No, I agree.
Chaz, let me ask you this: like, so why should someone who's listening take action right now?
Um, because honestly, right now, I think with everyone being at home, it's actually easier. It's both easier organically, and it also is cheaper to get people on a phone call, just because they're. I think the overall paradigm shift of society is kind of shifting more towards work at home. And whether you believe in the severity of the pandemic or not, I really think with, and this is just an objective kind of neutral position, with the way humans are, pretty much, I wouldn't say exponentially, but pretty quickly populating the planet. It's going to be, several more million in just a handful of decades. Problems of like having enough jobs for everyone, and just things like pandemics and stuff. They really are, no matter who's in charge, they are going to be becoming more rampant. It's more of a nature thing that we're against, anyways, as humanity, as like humanity. So, it so right now is probably the best time to tap into, I guess you could say, this fountain of wealth, if you will, because the key element you really need to make money with this stuff is for people to have the ability to sit down, and hop on a call with you and learn more about what you do. And right now it's becoming a trend, so you might as well catch it while it's early. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, as long as people have painful problems or deep desires, and they will exchange
Yeah.
valuable money, money for valuable goods and services. And
Yeah, but I mean, yeah,
it's
but
going
like,
more and more online where people are doing things over Zoom and stuff like that. So you're right. It's like
yeah,
it's a huge time where there's more and more of this stuff happening for sure.
yeah.
Um, I love it, man. So what is your number one piece of advice for coaches and consultants?
As it pertains to
Kind of just
in
like
general, or
what's going on in your head right now? Like, today, September 2020, like what's your number one piece of advice?
I would just say, you. I think I don't know. I just think you need to. I think it's important to definitely start being more proactive in investing in programs that are pretty legitimate, because the market's sophistication is increasing much more rapidly than the amount of people trying to start a business. For example, perhaps 3 to 4 years ago, it'd be very easy to kind of go to some Facebook group and just try to market to people and do that kind of stuff. And right now, the market's gotten so sophisticated and so jaded and experienced. There's people who are trying to lose some weight. They joined a support group that their friend recommended, and they know how to very easily um, deflect the advances of like a weight loss coach. Like people know how to be marketed to, and so therefore they resist much more easily. It's a trend that's only going to grow with time, and so you need to know you need a winning mindset, but you also need a winning mindset will naturally yield and lend itself to this kind of reasoning. And so because of that, you need to have some next level tactics to a certain extent as well. And if you don't, you're simply going to become you're just going to default to whatever the averages are. And from what I can see, it's not very good. So, yeah, you just need
Average
to,
gets average results. Conventional gets
yeah,
conventional results, you know?
yeah,
Um, I like it, man. Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to catch up with me. This is great. I can't wait to see what you do in October and through the rest of the year. Really excited for you,
yeah.
man. And yeah, like if people want to learn more about you, where can they find out more about you online?
Just type me in Facebook, Chaz Morales, and you'll find me. There's only one. So, yeah,
There is only one
yeah,
Chaz.
yeah, yeah.
Good stuff, man. All right. Well, thanks so much. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Do it.